There's no question that childhood is a terribly, terribly vulnerable time of life. Somebody else has all the control, somebody else makes all the choices, somebody tells you what you can do and what you can't do. And oftentimes those choices are not the choices that you would make for yourself. And it's no wonder that so much of childhood, and worse yet, your teenage years, is just sheer frustration. And that's if parents are doing a good job. If parents aren't doing a good job, then there's a whole nother layer of difficulty piled on top of that. But what I've been thinking about lately is not so much the vulnerability of childhood as the vulnerability of parenting. Parenting, it seems to me, is epic in the scale of vulnerability that it incurs. Parenting, I think, is as if you lived in a sci-fi fantasy story in which somebody came to you with a glistening, fragile crystal orb and handed it to you saying, the future of the world depends on this. This is the most precious thing. And when the time is right, this precious crystal orb will be the world's salvation. Take care of it. And then they leave. And you're in charge of the crystal orb that will be the salvation of the world, only you don't know how. And just when you figured out how to carry that orb around all the time without breaking it, it starts to wobble. And then it starts to roll. And pretty soon it's rolling faster than you can catch up with it. And then before you know it, it started to float. And you can't even catch it at all, and this precious crystal orb that you are responsible for, that you must keep safe and that you must guide toward its fulfillment in saving the world, is just floating out of sight. And you catch it when you can, and then it floats away, and you catch it when you can, and it floats away, and you're still responsible. Frankly, it's amazing to me, staggering, that anybody takes on parenting at all. Now, maybe that choice is a little more obvious to me as a parent by adoption. We really actually had to very much decide to have a child and how we were going to have a child and where the child was going to come from. And throughout the process, even then, I was staggered. Parenting is inviting a total and complete stranger to move into your house, not for the weekend or until they find an apartment or a job. No, this complete stranger is going to move into your house and your heart for the rest of your life. Really? Really? People do that? And yet people do. People do it all the time. They say that having a child is making a choice to have your heart go walking around outside your body, which is not something a sensible person would do, medically speaking. And yet, metaphorically, we do it. Not all of us, but many of us do just that. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that even those of us who are not parents make that choice to carry those precious, fragile crystal orbs all the time. We fall in love and we give our heart over to someone who may or may not stay with us. We take on a responsible job and we carry the fact that it matters to a whole bunch of other people, whether we're up to the task, whether we do it right. We take on caring about social justice causes, we take on caring for houses, we take on caring for the planet. All of us are entrusted with all of these precious, fragile orbs. And all I can think is that all of us are just out there juggling. All of these orbs in the air, some of them floating of their own accord in directions that you're not sure you're going to be able to grab them, and some of them depending entirely on your muscle power to lift them and to catch them. All of us surrounded by orbs in the air. Our families of origin, our families of choice, our neighborhoods, our jobs, all of it tossed and caught and tossed and caught. All of us vulnerable to dropping and breaking something that matters so much. All of us vulnerable to being dropped and broken. And that's just how it is. That's just how we live. And so all I know is to try to remember as I walk through life that each person I meet has in front of them these not quite visible crystal orbs that they're catching and throwing and catching and trying to grab before they float away. And all I can think is, be gentle. We're all doing the best we can.